right, guys, Wes here. Welcome back to the channel. And today we've got some big news to talk about for God of War Ragnarok. And what just happened, guys? I feel like we've been waiting for DLC to release, that now that we have it in front of us, it truly feels surreal. Like, huge shout out to Santa Monica as well. They did such an incredible job with this DLC. I'm gonna try not to sing its praise too much because I was just completely mind blown. That ending, the story beats, the music, the gameplay loop, the surprise moments, and every part of it was just crazy. And like most of you guys who have played the DLC, you're probably wondering, how did we get that thing for free? Like, they could have charged 20 bucks for it, heck, even $30 for it, and I think we all would be really happy with the experience. Now in today's video, we're going to talk about some huge updates and news to talk about for God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. There was a recent patch that went live the other day that we're going to talk about some of the details. Along with that, throughout the DLC, there was a bunch of little teasers that kind of hint at what we could get for God of War 6. Along with that, we have a new cryptic tweet from Santa Monica Studio senior writer that also hints that the story is not over just yet, so we're going to talk about what that means. We have a ton to talk about, so check the video chapters to optimize your viewing experience. And without further delay, let's get into it. All right, so before we get into the juicy details about some of the teasers, the references that are hinting towards the future of God of War, let's first go over the patch notes that recently went live. There was a bunch of well-needed bug fixes in this patch, so we're going to go over everything. Obviously, there's video chapters, so just go to the part that you want to go to. But let's first start off with the cinematic bug fixes. They said this fixed an issue where audio would not play and characters would be out of sync during the first cinematic after death. And then during the cinematics, whenever the spear particles would show up, they completely cleared those. So that should help with immersion just a little bit more. Now, in terms of gameplay, this is probably the biggest update that we got right here. Now, with this DLC being a roguelite, or as Orion Walker, the senior writer over at Santa Monica, puts it, a broguelite, this DLC is meant to be difficult. If you guys watch my release stream, then you know that I got clapped multiple times. Even on the easy difficulty, they said that they reduced difficulty of first tier fight on the show me will difficulty setting. Next up, they increased difficulty of some arena challenges. They made some tuning adjustment to the forum to make the difficulty more appropriate. They slightly reduced health gain and chance of proc on spear kill while in Valhalla. They made various combat tuning and balance updates. They also fixed an issue where Greek labyrinth mastery would not increase in the open Greek chest value if Kratos forfeited a reward selection after spinning fleeting echoes to open a chest. They fixed an exploit when using the spear against the Ormstunga. They fixed an issue with the encounter not ending when kicking in Herjar outside of the arena. They also fixed an issue where Tyr would teleport away and not come back. Next up, there was an issue where not all hunter armor pieces were available. That has been resolved. Next up, there was an issue where encounter would not end if Nightmare was ejected from a creature near the arena boundary. And lastly, for the gameplay, they fixed an issue where Kratos would erroneously stay in Spartan Rage when interacting with shield maidens. Moving right along, there has been some general stability improvements. They resolved multiple crashes, including when opening certain chests or rifts, non-English language specific crashes, and memory leak on the PS4. They also fixed an issue where Kratos would be falling through the world. They also fixed an issue with Kratos falling through the world after walking through a mystic gateway. And finally, for the general stability, they fixed some issues with textures not streaming in properly when entering arenas. Now on to the UI/UX updates. They resolved an issue with time extended message displaying in time challenge trials when it should not. There was also problems with the subtitles overlapping UI when in vendor menus. They also resolved some instances of the navigation assist pointing in incorrect locations. There was also an issue where the timer would overlap with the warrior soul health bar. They also fixed instances where the elite's killed counter would remain after the time expired. They corrected costly damage burden to show appropriate duration in the description. They fixed the King of the Hill challenge timer overlapping progress bar. They fixed an issue that would cause the screen reader to read the tablet reflection prompt twice in a row. Fixed instances where subtitles were not properly formatted. There was an issue where flawless kills and flawless parry challenge UI updated anytime Kratos was hit. And then by far my favorite thing that they added was a download in progress screen if attempting to launch God of War Ragnarok Valhalla before God of War Ragnarok is fully installed. All right, next up, I want to talk about this tweet from the senior writer over at Santa Monica Studios. And they said this on Twitter: "You really think the credits are the end of the story? Come on now. Hashtag God of War Ragnarok Valhalla." Now this of course sent Twitter in a frenzy, as well as the God of War community, trying to figure out what this actually meant. Was it a cryptic statement? Are they teasing the future of God of War? Is it maybe the future of God of War Ragnarok Valhalla? Could we be getting new updates to the mode that provide different story beats? Could it be a situation where there's a big Easter egg in God of War Ragnarok Valhalla that we have to figure out? So first, let's talk about the most likely scenario, and that is as you go through your different runs of God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, there are certain items in the game. For instance, the boat captain key, the Calliope's flute, Lysandra's pendant, and essentially as you collect one, I believe there's like 3 of boat captain keys. I'm not exactly sure how many different items there are for each type, but essentially as you go through Valhalla each time and you collect one of those items, then you get more story information. Now, after the credits of Valhalla, you can obviously do another run because this is a roguelite and it's never ending. It's all randomly generated stuff. So I'm guessing that that's what they're meaning. Now, it could mean something even bigger, possibly that Valhalla is not the end of the story and they plan on continuing the Norse saga, possibly with an Atreus half sequel or a future expansion coming to the game. Now, prior to December and pretty much the entire year, we all thought that our hopes and dreams of God of War getting new content was pretty much over, and Eric Williams himself told us that they had no plans for DLC, which, as I said multiple times on my videos, that's typical marketing. Obviously, they're not going to announce if they have plans. If it's something in the works, they're not going to tell us until it's ready, and that was clearly the case with this situation. We now know that God of War Ragnarok got DLC finally, and it was amazing. So who's to say that they couldn't do this again? Kratos' story is technically, I guess, over in Valhalla specifically, but that doesn't mean that there's not further work to be done in the Nine Realms. Obviously, we know Atreus is rumored to be getting a half sequel game that I've covered on this channel multiple times. There's been a ton of insiders that have stated that Atreus is not done just yet with his journey, and it could be that he's just now getting started. The character development is there. He's going to save the giants with Angerboda. So like I said, the senior writer over at Santa Monica is most likely mentioning that the story isn't over after the credits because there's other items you can collect that will give you further story clues, and that's most likely what they're meaning. Now, this is where things get a little bit spicy. This is where we shake things up a bit with this video because the future of God of War is looking bright. Now, I'm going to mention some brief spoilers, so if you have not completed the DLC, then I recommend clicking off of this part of the video. I've got a couple other things to talk about, so you can skip to that section. Now, this is where we get to the very interesting part, the spicy stuff that gives us an idea of where Kratos is going in the future. So if you played through the end, then you know that Kratos is now the god of hope, and he sits on the throne of Ares in Valhalla. We know that Valhalla basically is depictions of his mind. We know that because he sees his former self, he sees locations that he's been to in the past, specifically Greece, and this is basically just an amalgamation of everything that Kratos has been through. It shows his entire journey for the most part. You can even see pyramids in the background of some of the scenery, which obviously a lot of people think God of War 6 is taking us to Egypt, but if you know God of War lore, then you know that Kratos has been to Egypt before. So while I know a lot of people are thinking that that's a teaser for the future, this is mainly just depictions of his mind, like I said. Now, with Kratos being a god, he finally sits atop Ares' throne in Valhalla, and that is most likely where Kratos will stay until the events of the next game, God of War 6. Now, the reason that I think Kratos will stay in Valhalla until the next game is so they narratively have a reason for the Nine Realms to be empty and void of Kratos. That way, whenever they do a potential half sequel game with Atreus, possibly set within the Nine Realms, it would make sense that that's why Kratos is not around, as he's currently chilling up in Valhalla while Atreus goes on his journey to try to find the giants with Angerboda. In my opinion, this basically writes itself. Atreus would have to go on a solo journey, and unlike last time where he had Kratos to come save him, this time Kratos is in Valhalla chilling up on his throne, which would essentially be the first real test that Atreus would have on his own without Papa Kratos to bail him out. Now, another thing that this DLC did for us is it provided closure to Tyr's poses, or at least partially, which, like, maybe partially it could just lead to more questions. If you've been following the channel for a while, then you know that we've talked about Tyr's poses throughout God of War Ragnarok's game. For instance, the Japanese style sitting, the Hindu namaste, and the other poses are likely teasers to the Valhalla DLC as well as God of War 6. Now, in the Valhalla DLC, you notice that Tyr had multiple weapons. There's the Maqua Wit, or the Mesoamerica weapon, likely from the Aztecs or the Mayans. There's also the Egyptian weapon, the Kopish. There's the katana, which is the Japanese weapon, and then finally the spear and the shield, which is of Norse descent, or possibly the Roman descent as well. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I know exactly what mythology or pantheon we're going to next, but it sure seems like they're leading us on a wild goose chase. Like, guys, I have no idea where they're going to take things, but if any of the weapons or possibly the poses are any clue, then we're at least narrowed down to a few different possibilities where things could go. And the last theory that I'd like to talk about, which is kind of a brief one, and it's honestly one that I just thought of: what if Valhalla could be the gateway to other realms? Like, imagine we have to pass through Valhalla and are then reborn in one of these new realms, possibly even Greek mythology, and rather than Kratos continue his journey, he is reborn. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty wild theory. It's, like I said, it's something that I just thought of. It's likely not the case, but I am really excited for the future of God of War, and I can't wait to jump back into Valhalla and master thyself and just be better. But yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap it up with this video. Let me know what what your thoughts are in the comment section. Like the video, subscribe to the channel with your notifications turned on, and until next time, this has been Wes, and I will talk to you guys again soon.